some intro music plays. So, so welcome back everyone to the Kinda Everywhere podcast. I'm Miko, and I'm a graduate of computer engineering, and right now I'm still unemployed. And this is my friend Meg, and she'll introduce herself for you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Megan. I am a graduate of chemical engineering. We share the same uni with Miko. And I'm also, no, I'm employed. I
Well,
am,
good for you.
I was thinking, should I say that? No, but I am studying my master's degree of biotechnology and bioinformatics here in Australia in the midst of the pandemic. So that's kind of weird.
And that's the
But
and that's the key
we're
difference
here.
because Meg's in Australia and I'm in Cebu, Philippines. So this is an international podcast or whatever. It's the Kind of Everywhere podcast. And today we have an interesting topic which I think a lot of people can relate to. So this is gonna be
Yeah.
especially helpful for you if you're just entering the job market or you're still a senior high school or high school student and you're trying to figure out what do you want to do with life because today we're going to be talking about choosing your course in college or university or whatever you call it in your place.
Yeah. That big decision that you have to do.
I think,
Actually,
yeah, sure. Go
okay.
ahead, Meg.
This topic popped up on our first episode, which if you haven't seen yet, link in the description below. But uh, yeah, I'm a natural already with those things. But it popped up on our first episode, Miko, if you still remember, when you said that it's kind of hard for people, especially in the Philippines. I'm not sure with everyone else in the world
Yeah, let's
what it
let's
looks
fill
like.
everyone in on that discussion. So,
Yeah.
in our first episode, we were talking about personal productivity, but it
Yep.
eventually also talked about relation. It also talked about education and
Mm-hmm.
how the schools and how the education system plays into how people themselves are productive in the choices they make in life. So the discussion we had in the last episode, which we're going to be expounding more, is that it it's such an odd thing that we expect teenagers like when Meg and
Yes.
I were in high school in the Philippines, there wasn't an implementation of K-12 yet. So what does that mean? We enter college at 16 years old. So
15
15,
even.
well, 15 or 16 for
Hmm.
some. And I'm just thinking that there's not a reasonable expectation for us to expect kids and like kid honestly 16 those are still kids to make these kinds of really big decisions. And even when you go
Yeah.
to 18 uh, it's just 2 years apart. Of course, you're a little bit more mature at 18, but you're still a bit far off from completely mature. I would say. I think you mentioned that before, Meg. Like how old
Mm.
someone is before the brain completely develops or the personality completely develops.
Don't quote me on this, but guys mature later than girls. Wink, wink.
Oh,
Now it's an explanation now, right,
damn
girls?
it!
Yeah, but it's like a scientific fact. But and guys also die earlier than girls. It
Thanks.
just
You're just gonna roll with the. Yep, that's great information. I was asking what age does the personality
girls.
mature
I don't
in.
know. I just want to throw that fact out in the world. Anyways, where were we? See, we're kind of everywhere.
If I remember correctly, you mentioned before that it's
Yeah.
around somewhere like mid
30-ish.
20s to like early
Yeah.
30s. That's when the
Yes.
personality of someone actually develops, right?
No, not the
And
personality. It's
oh,
the
what is it? The
mature.
brain?
Yeah, the brain, the parts
Yeah.
of the brain, like the physical flesh of it. Like it's
Okay,
still
so long
like
story short, that's
I'm
when it
not
starts
really sure
deteriorating.
about the specifics, but yeah.
Or well, of course,
Oh,
it deteriorates a lot faster if you start drinking or smoking at an early age. So if you made those decisions before, please consider stopping. And if you're ever in a
mm-hmm.
position where you think you might want to engage, do not engage. It's very
Do
simple.
not.
But anyway, let's get back to our topics. Our topic's about choosing your course in college. Now, both Meg and I think I'll start, are gonna go
Go for
over
it.
how we decided on the courses that we graduated from. So I'm a graduate of computer engineering. Meg's a graduate of chemical engineering. So
Yep.
for me, and remember, it's really important that the context, like we both grew up in the Philippines. So of course, it's gonna be vastly different for you listeners, depending on where you're from. So it could be better, it could be worse. For me, I came from science high school. So I came from Cebu City National Science High School, and it was primarily a science-oriented high school. It's also considered as one of the best high schools that you have in Cebu City and even the entire Visayas. And
It's hard to get into, right?
yeah,
If
it's
I'm not
definitely
mistaken.
hard. So if I
It's a
remember correctly,
rigorous process.
I think a lot of the success that Science High gets is just because we have a screening process when you try to get into the school. So you can't
Mm-hmm.
even apply to the school if you don't already belong to the top 10% of the school where you came from, like top 10 or
Okay.
top 20%. So you need to come from the top 10% if you're from a public school. But if you're from a
Mm-hmm.
private school, you need to come from the top 10. Because, some sections in private schools are very small. It's
Yeah.
just like 20 or less, like 19
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you need to belong to the top 10 because they're just so few people. And it's a really rigorous process, I would say, when you're in the first year. But I think what it is that people are set up for success because you
Okay.
already you already cut out a lot of people. And remember, this application is that you don't get in if you're in the top 10. That's only you're allowed to take the entrance exam.
Oh, so there's another filter
Oh yeah, yeah.
after
No,
the
the
top
the
10.
entire after that initial filter that you're allowed to apply, only 175 people get in out of like 1,000 people that apply.
Wow,
And
it sounds like Harvard there or something.
but I don't know, but it seems great, and a lot of people, we do produce a lot of successful graduates. On average, almost every batch produces like, I don't know, three or four top notchers in their respective fields.
Oh,
So
that's really good.
yeah,
Those are
so
good
it's
numbers.
really set up for success. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I honestly think that it's because of the initial filter. So what just happens
Okay.
is it's your that's the first filter, the top 10% or top 10, and then there are four additional phases. So there's
Okay.
an entrance exam, and then there's an interview, which it comes in two parts, and then there's a last interview, something like that. But this
So
episode
what does
isn't
it?
about Science
Yeah.
High.
Yes, that's
But yeah,
why I
sure,
was
finish your
asking you.
question. Yeah.
What does it look like for Miko, a fourth year high school student in Science High? By the way, listeners, fourth year high school is the last bit that you have to go through before going to college. So, what does it look like when you're
Yeah.
about to graduate and go to college? Does the school give you questionnaires? Does the counselor ask you what you
So yeah, that's
want?
that's exactly the thing. So
Hmm.
going into college, and for those of you who don't know, fourth year high school, that's the equivalent of like 10th grade,
Mm.
in other curriculums, or the end of middle school for the people in the United States. I'm not sure if I got that right, but basically what it looks like is a lot of us don't actually know what we want to do, and the
Yes.
only attempt that of guidance isn't actually coming from the school itself. It actually came from the PTA, and mostly from the help of my dad, who was the president of the PTA at that time, so the Parent Teachers
Okay.
Association. So he invited people from different industries to hold a
Mm-hmm.
1 hour talk about what they do in their industry. And so, I mean, of course, as high schoolers, you don't know what the real world is like.
Yes,
So
definitely.
there's you don't know. And then this is the only way that you kind of find out. Like you ask people. I think the thing about it is what's more alarming is that people aren't compelled to this question earlier. So we go through this entire process like every other week. There's some guy that talks about their job, and
Mm-hmm.
we only do this in the fourth year, like what the graduating year. We don't do this any other time.
And I
And
believe you do that even like closer to graduation day, right?
yeah, so it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't start because of course you don't know if you're gonna graduate or not.
Ooh,
So of course
yes.
you
There's
start
that
it
problem.
you start in like the second semester. So
Mhm.
like every other week or like maybe once a month in the second semester, some guy comes up, talks about his life in his job. Like, yeah, I make a lot of money, but then the guy doesn't also look so happy. But whatever, I make lots of money. So like that, those are the talks. And honestly, my key takeaway from that is um, I don't think that that's enough. So I'm sure it definitely helps some people
Of course.
decide what they wanted to do or decide what they don't want to do. So those are two equally
Mm-hmm.
important things. Don't get me wrong, but that's a discussion for another episode. But I think that the reason why I think it wasn't enough is because you're compelled to make this, or people tell you that it's such a great life changing decision, and it honestly is. But it begs the question: why wasn't I asked earlier? Right? So going into
Did you
college,
ask that yourself?
yeah, I asked that myself, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really voice it out to like any guidance counselor or whatever, because I was
Mm-hmm.
also an active student leader. So I know that they're
Okay.
busy, we're busy doing things, but I think like it should be a priority of schools as a whole that you should ask these kids what they want to do. And I think that's something that they do a bit more successfully in like Montessori learning institutions.
Mm-hmm.
So then
I'm not
honestly for
familiar with
me,
that, but yeah.
yeah, maybe a little bit later. So long story short, going into college, I didn't really know anything except that I know that in my family first we come from like my dad's a businessman, but when he wasn't a businessman, he was a graduate of computer. He was a graduate of engineering, so he was an electrical engineer.
Okay.
And my mom took two courses. I forgot what the first one was, and she also took nursing. And my elder
Wow.
brother and elder sister, they're both nurses. So I
Mm-hmm.
immediately knew at the get go, I'm not gonna be a nurse.
Excuse me.
So
Yep. 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 Yep.
yep. So I just don't want to be a nurse. And then I was just thinking, okay, maybe we'll follow in my dad's footsteps and be an engineer. But
Engineer.
then
Okay.
I think about it. Then CIT is first of all the closest school, and second, they good.
Oh,
They have
that
a
people know what CIT is.
yeah they have a good track record when it comes to you should always check if your college you're applying to has a good track record. So
Yeah.
honestly,
Mhm.
if you just go on a whim and take any college that will take you, um, I think you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. And what do I mean by that? Is because
Why?
the reason why schools have a reputation is because they have a standard that they put on their graduates. So I think we
Yes.
talked about this a little bit before, and just like how, like if you get into Harvard and you're trying to graduate from Harvard, but you're too stupid, you're not gonna graduate. There,
You won't.
you don't deserve the diploma if you're stupid. Or I don't know. Fine, like let's not be insensitive. Fine, there can be multiple reasons, maybe not
Multiple reasons.
that you don't graduate. Okay, but long
Yep.
story
I
short.
know many people who are smart who's not able to graduate. But yeah, long story
Okay, yeah,
short.
because you also came from like a more intense, I wouldn't say more intense, but a different culture. And the
Yeah.
point is, when the school has a reputation, they already set you up for success. So honest to God,
Mm-hmm.
like even if like people are bound to complain, like just imagine. I mean, I wouldn't imagine that you get into Harvard and then Harvard's the perfect school. Of course, Harvard's
Yes.
gonna have a lot of problems. So any school has problems. But I think the question here is it within your first of all budget, and second of all your ability to get into that school, the
Mm-hmm.
reputation that it has. Because of course when I got into CIT, so it's kind of a good school for engineering. They have other courses, but they aren't as good as engineering. But here's the thing, um I there are things to complain about, honestly. There are
Mm-hmm.
honestly things to complain about. But if you compare it to the other schools, you can really say that, damn, they have it worse. So, and of
Yeah.
course, you also need to remember that not every course is made equal in your university. So if
There's
you're
always
more
that star course. Yep.
yeah, so if you're more self-aware of it, you can also do your background research. Like in my example, I chose computer engineering because I just showed up when I was trying to enroll. I showed up and I knew I wanted to take engineering, and the only thing that's in my mind is I have no idea what any of these things do. I don't have any idea what any of the engineering, like I don't know the differences between them. But the only thing,
Really?
or no, what I mean by that is I don't know specifically what's the major difference except from what I can extrapolate in their name. So I
Mm.
know chemical
Makes sense. Makes
engineering
sense.
deals with chemicals. I
That's
know
too
computer
simplistic.
I know computer engineering deals with computer.
Deals with computers.
See? I actually
Okay.
didn't know what civil engineering meant, but that's what I actually asked beforehand, and so that's when I found out that it's about civil works. They make buildings. But then when I got
Okay.
there, I when I got into the place where to enroll, then they have this really big room. There are course schedules laid out everywhere on the
Yeah, it's
walls,
overwhelming. Yeah,
and then you
true.
can see that in civil engineering they have like 12 sections. They have 12 or 20 sections. Like they have like
Mm-hmm.
K1 until K20. And like, and I already knew beforehand, like a lot of my friends were talking about they want to be a civil engineer. And then just taking a ratio
Okay.
from all of my friends that graduated, I know that a lot of people are going to be entering this industry. So it's going to be very competitive. But then I thought to myself, well, honestly, the reason why people pursue a really big course like that, civil engineering, is because they see a lot of flashy people. Like it's those two things:
It's
civil engineering,
it's the
architecture.
money.
So it's the money.
Yeah.
Like they see the people
Yeah.
who are very successful, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, I wanna do that. I wanna
I
just
wanna
sign a
be
piece of,
like that.
I wanna just sign a piece of paper, and I get 1 million peso every signature." Yeah, but
That's the promise. Mm.
I think that's the promise. But I think people don't really consider, first of all, how difficult it actually is to be that level of engineer. And second of all, especially
Mm-hmm.
because, like in this situation, because people aren't so self aware about what they want. So, like we mentioned this in an earlier episode too.
Yep.
And because people aren't so self aware about what exactly they want in life, it's easy for them to pursue things that just make them more comfortable, which they think is money. But then you end up in a course which you don't like, or
Mm-hmm.
so help you God, you make it through the course, you finish the course, and even if you did well, you realize that when you get the job, well, wow, I hate working. I
And
hate
you
looking,
hated the everyday. Yeah.
and you hate it every day. And so in my situation, I honestly know that I didn't want to actually be an engineer in the first place.
Wait, hang on. Before you enrolled,
Yeah,
before you went to the university to take the entrance exam,
yeah.
do you have a course already
No. So I
decided?
didn't have. You did? You
Okay.
did? So I'll
No.
just finish and
No,
then
I
we'll go
didn't
we'll
have.
go to
Okay.
you. We'll
Yeah,
go to
yes.
you, Meg.
Yes, yes.
So for
Yep.
me, it was actually that I knew, growing up, like I've been growing plants like since I was a kid. So
Mm-hmm.
I always found it very fascinating. Like plants, like they take in nutrients from the environment. They grow bigger. It's amazing, right? Honestly, they're
Yeah.
plants. But then
Mm-hmm.
but then it was outstanding to me. Like, why don't we know more about them? I wanted to explore that branch of science. So I wanted to actually be a botanist when I was entering into college. But then I knew that, first of all, I don't want to be far. Like, it's a personal choice. I don't want to be far away from my family. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely for me personally, working overseas it's really a deal breaker. I don't want to work overseas. And I also
Okay.
know, secondly, that people don't get hired as a botanist in the Philippines. because the Philippine
Yes.
government and the Philippine people in general don't honestly honestly don't have respect for science. They honestly don't. Like, research is so underfunded, and the only time people get funding for research is when coronavirus hits, and now we need to look for ways on how to have social distancing, on how to have proper practices, on how to protect people. Like, that's why,
That
like, for
just made me
example,
sad.
it is honestly sad.
Yeah.
And that's the example why
Yeah.
we have face shield. Because I think face shield was a product of the research, and how why everywhere else doesn't have face shield. They only have masks.
Mm.
So that's the thing. So first, I wanted to be a botanist, but then it's a pragmatic decision. I knew that I'm not gonna get hired as a botanist, so I'm just not gonna pursue botany. So second thing is, I think I'm really honestly talking too long. Second thing is, I
Go
knew that
for
I
it.
wanted to be engineering, but then I didn't know which engineering. So I just had another consideration to make. That first, I don't want to be in a place which is too crowded because
Yes, makes sense.
it's honestly annoying. Then
That's not what I'm aiming for. Yep.
there are definitely so many people that are gonna be there. And a second, I also wanted it to be somewhat related to what I'm interested in. And I like
Okay.
computers, so computer engineering makes sense. Let me just digress just a little bit before I end.
Go for it.
Um,
Yeah.
right before we graduated, on the year we graduated, the national government gives every student an exam on what they
Yes.
recommend
I went through
students
that.
to take. So you probably
Mm-hmm.
took it too, and it's called the NKI,
Mm-hmm.
and I honestly have no
Yes.
idea what it means. And here's the
National
funnier
Career
thing.
Assessment Examination.
Yes, that's the thing.
National Career Assessment Examination. Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
And what the funnier thing about it is, engineering for me was actually my third. So I don't know if you remember what was yours. So maybe we can start with that when we go to you. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
the funniest thing was my aptitude was first is that I should be a general in the military.
Okay.
General in the military. Like, it's
And you're
very
telling me
obvious.
all the time that I'm evil. But you're the one who's like conniving and
What?
strategic.
I didn't do anything. It was the exam.
Okay. Go on,
So
go on,
it's the
go on.
general in the military, and it's oddly specific. Like, it really mentions general there. I don't know why. And then second,
Mm-hmm.
for second, it mentions that I should be an archbishop. So, like,
Okay.
these are very different things, and I don't know why they're next to each other. And then the third one's engineering. So, yeah, I think engineering is the best bet here.
All
But
right.
I don't know. And I honestly also don't know either on if people actually follow the NKI or not. Because the other thing
Mm-hmm.
here, before we go to you, remember, one
Mm-hmm.
of the things we need to remember for the Philippines, for our international viewers, that a lot of the time, even if you have some decision, there's a lot of peer pressure and familial pressure on what you should choose as a course for college. And
Yeah.
and like, I mean, Filipinos are still Asian, so we also uphold that Asian stereotype that if you're not an engineer, if you're not a
Yeah.
doctor, or if you're not an
Or a
attorney,
lawyer.
you are a disappointment.
A huge
So
disappointment to the
huge,
family. You
like,
dishonor
don't
your cow. You dishonor. Yeah. Mm.
yeah, don't even look at, like, don't mention, don't look at the arts, don't mention and don't look at psychology, don't even don't quiet. You engineer, you understand? So
Not every parent is like that, okay? But that's the
a
cultural.
lot of parents are like that. But anyway, yeah,
Mine's
it's something
not.
like that.
But
Well, good
yeah.
for you, Meg. Privilege.
Hey, mom and dad. No, I don't call them mom and dad. Hi, mama, papa. They're really good. But I'm gonna tell that
Yeah,
part
so
of
let's
the
move to
story.
you, Meg.
Yeah.
So what did I
Oh my
cover?
god.
Your college
Yes.
entrance story,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe after your college entrance story and your NCAI results. Maybe we'll start with NCAI results. Then after your NCAI results and college story, let's go into a discussion
Okay.
about how cultures are different.
Disclaimer. I'm gonna sound like I will be bragging a lot.
Oh
Okay.
God.
But hear me out. These are not opinions, these are facts. Okay? So I'm just telling this because this is what happened. Okay?
Sure.
So starting my and I'm gonna start way before high school. Okay? So from nursery is like, how do you call that? That's the first stage, like you enter the educational system. That's the entry point. We call it nursery, and then you go to kindergarten,
Yeah.
elementary, high school, college. Okay? So starting from nursery until up to high school. Okay, here's the bragging part. I'm always on top one. Maybe because I was in a Catholic school and I was from a small town. I'm actually toning down that fact, okay? I'm from a
Small
small
town
town.
girl.
Yes, and my classmates are my classmates from nursery until high school. So if oh my god, this sounds like I'm so bragging. So if I'm like the smartest in that pool, that carried over until it ended in high school, right? But here's the thing. I get all the accolades like best in science and best in language and best in that stuff, but I never even once had best in math.
The
And I
dumb
hated
bitch.
it because there is someone better in math than me. And I totally accepted that. But it picked on my ego, and it's a bad thing. But that's at the back of my mind. When I was like in elementary, I already know what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a doctor because my mom is a nurse. But
Okay.
that
Doctor.
changed.
Okay.
Yeah, because I grew up in the hospital. Because my I always go there because
Okay,
my
yeah.
mom's a nurse, and I see the doctors and they're wearing this white robe and everyone respects them, and it's like, huh, I want to be like that. But okay, fast forward into high school. Because I'm always in the hospital, I also saw the horrors of
Mm.
being like a doctor and a nurse. When I was young, like a doctor was really kind because I'm so talkative, Miko. I always ask people, like, what is this and what does it do? But I'm an annoying kid. But this doctor, he likes my inquisitiveness, maybe. So he did an appendectomy. You know
Mm.
what that is? When you have appendicitis, it blows
Yeah.
up. They cut you open. They
They
take the
take it
organ
out. Yep.
away. So I think I was on the
You're
third
in the
grade.
room.
They took me into the operating room with the scrubs and
Ah.
everything. The scrubs were so oversized and they put like all the stuff in me, and I watched the operation. I was fascinated by it. That stuck with my head. Like I saw the human intestines. Oh, digression. Do you know when you take out the human intestine or intestine? I don't know. How do you pronounce it correctly in your
Mm.
region? When you put it back, I was aghast. I told the doctor, I remember this, like I told the doctor, like, you should put it back the way it was folded before, because they just like scooped it up and dumped it like not like organized. And the young me, I was like, please put it back the way it is before. But the doctor told me, don't worry, the intestine is amazing. It will rearrange itself automatically. So I was like, okay, so this guy's not gonna die. But anyway, going back to the our body is amazing, ladies and gentlemen. Your
Yep.
intestine can like arrange itself back. Okay. So going back, because of that, and I not being a doctor is fascinating, being a
Yep.
nurse is fascinating. But I also saw that they don't sleep that much.
Yeah.
My mom's like that. We call her the sleeping dragon before. Hi, mama. Because after a night shift, she will sleep, and we are not allowed to make a sound and wake her up. Because if she wakes up in the middle of her nap, like all hell breaks loose. Yes. And I thought to myself when I was older and when I had more sense, I can't see myself living like that,
Mm.
like on a night shift and being pulled and having no routine. So I decided, okay, I don't want to be a doctor. But my parents, they thought that I would go that route. So fast forward to the entrance exam. Oh, my NCAI results. Ugh, I don't want to brag again. Okay. I
Oh
was the
no.
first I was the first batch of students. Our batch, our graduating batch was the first batch of students who took the
Took the
NCAI.
NCAI? Oh
Yeah,
god.
because it was, my mom told me in her time it was there and then it stopped. And then I remember we were the first batch who took it again. Like
Yeah.
it started again in our batch. I I remember my friend and her name is Clarence. She's studying law right now. Hi, Clarence. We scored 99th percentile in language. So meaning like for the entire country, like we are on the
Top
top,
1%.
something like that. Yeah, makes sense. And I did the same in science as well.
But not
So,
math.
no, not yeah. I
Oh
think this will
god.
be I think this will be a good discussion on the next episode because I was scared of math before. Because there was this thinking of math is scary, and now I fell in love with it when I'm older. But yeah, we have to talk about that in the next episode maybe, but I'm not making any reasons why I didn't get the best in math, okay? Okay, so fast forward.
Yeah.
During the entrance exam, my best friend and I, her name is Ashley, we took it together. Ashley was the one who decided to take chemical engineering. She wants chemical engineering. And I'm supposed to take the pharmacy entrance exam because that's my route to
Yeah.
medicine. So after graduating, like that's my pre-med course. And do you know what happened, Miko? You know, because I told you. Do you know what happened, audiences? Ashley is now a doctor, and I am a chemical engineer. Okay,
You did
so
it,
here's the
guys.
story.
You
Yeah,
did
I
it. You
know.
failed
Yeah.
successfully.
Oh my god. Oh, I I remember my mom's face. I lived in Bohol, right? I lived in a small town. I have to cross to another island, which is Cebu, to get the entrance exam. Miko, you are very lucky because you live in Cebu already. But I, ladies and gentlemen, at the tender age of 15, have to live the comforts of my house, go to the big, scary city, and study at a uni. Okay? So, to my mom's horror, I went back and I told her, "Oh, ma, I already took the entrance exam for pharmacy, but then I enrolled in chemical engineering." He's like,
God.
"What? Like, you stupid kid! Like, I thought you want to be a doctor." And you know, I made that decision on the spot there. I looked at the paper and I imagined myself like a pharmacy student or something.
Yeah.
It didn't click. Like, I know it's a bad place to make that decision and it's a bad timing because it's the nick of time.
Yep.
But then the results came and the examiner told me, "Oh, you have really high scores. Don't you want to consider engineering?" Or I think they were promoting engineering at that time because I don't know why the examiner talked to me like that. Like it sounded even like she's degrading farmers. I don't know. Because she's like telling me, "Oh, you
There's
have
probably
good
staff
scores."
of chemical engineering handling the test.
Maybe. I don't know. Like she said, "Oh, you have really good scores. Don't you want to take a pre-law course or an engineering?" I was like,
That's such a funny thing. Like even
engineering.
in the school, they kind of try to
Push
harbor
it to you.
students.
I'm not saying she's pushing it to me, but that's what happened. Like that's what I remember. And then
Yeah.
I said, engineering. Let's see. Can you give me a pamphlet of what engineering courses are available?" And then I saw number one on the list, chemical engineering.
You got fooled by alphabetical order.
Because,
God damn.
yes, alphabetical order C. And before that, I think there's like, I don't know if you believe in the Twilight Zone, like there are like subtle subconscious hints. Because
Mm.
Ashley wants chemical engineering, so she always talks about it and she's passionate about it. By the way, Ashley's mom is a doctor. So, yeah. And then we had a teacher, and I love chemistry. Like,
Mm.
chemistry was very easy for me at the time.
Yep.
And people were like, oh, what do we do? How do we balance it? And I'm sitting there. I'm
Balancing
like,
is easy. Like
that's why. I'm just sitting
I
there at the
I
back.
always
I'm
wonder,
like,
yeah, right? Like
why is it?
why do what's
See, we're bragging. Migo, let's.
I'm sorry, viewers. Like, but
Yeah.
okay. Let me be fair. I didn't have good grades,
Okay.
and I didn't have good grades in chemistry, but it's not for the reason you think.
Hmm.
I did all the balance shit well. So anything that involves the solving part, do it great. Um, I
It's
didn't
just
take the time to learn how to name or read the
the
names.
naming.
So I don't know
Anyways,
the difference
yeah.
between eights and ites. I just didn't give a shit.
Digression. Okay, focus. All right.
Go ahead, yeah.
So I took chemical engineering because, yep, people like maybe Ashley got into my brain, and also one of our teachers mentioned it. Mom Kathy, she's my language teacher, my one of my inspirations about writing and everything. She talked about it, and like it seeped into my brain. And then I saw the pamphlet. It's number one. I don't usually believed in science, but at that time it clicked in my brain. I'm like, and then I Googled it. Google is not like very big that time,
Yeah.
but I tried to, and that was it. This is in retrospect, okay? This is
Yeah.
like already like after I enrolled. Because I can always change the enrollment after. Because my
Oh yeah,
mom's
you
telling
can
me,
also shift.
yeah, yeah, shift. My mom told me, you have to be sure. She was so mad at me. You have to think about it. If you want to shift to pharmacy, because she's a nurse, I think it's also her dream to be like, I will be a doctor because she's a nurse. So when her daughter will be a doctor, something like that.
Yeah.
She told me, if you want to shift, I will support you. If you want to go back and enroll in pharmacy, I will support you. But kudos to her. She told me, it will always be up to you.
Yeah.
So I tried to research,
Respect.
and I discovered chemical engineering is one of the hardest engineering courses. And I tried to I tried to research why. It's because of the mathematics.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Hmm.
this is a way to redeem myself.
Oh,
All
God.
those years of not getting the best in math. If I will graduate as a chemical engineer, that will be a slap to the face of everyone who took. No, not really. But
Okay,
that's like
how to
that's
choose a
me. That's
college
my young
course
me.
according to Meg. Whatever makes us feel more pride.
No, actually, looking back, I did not regret it
Yeah.
because I chose something that would empower me in a sense.
Mm.
Because I was scared of math growing up. Sometimes I know the answer, I know how to solve it, but because I panic, I don't know. There's something I have to like unpack that first, but I was really scared of math before.
Yeah.
But I conquered that fear.
Mm.
And I studied something that I'm bad at. I was actually proud of my young self for like knowing that subconsciously, but I picked a course that would improve me at my worst. Because if I choose something that I'm already good at, like, where's the thrill in that? But
Yeah.
that was just me. So that's how I chose chemical engineering. And do you know that? So, ladies and gentlemen, Miko and I graduated in the same college, right? But I was a transferee. I did not graduate. I did not initially went to CIT for chemical engineering because I was taking pharmacy. So I went to another institution And they offer chemical engineering as well there, which is actually a really, really good reputation for chemical engineers. But then, in the middle of the race, I think all engineering students will feel this. I'm not sure if you felt this, Miko, but there will be like during third year or fourth year
Third
when
year,
you're
fourth year.
almost
Yep.
there. Yes,
It's
you will
like
have an existential crisis,
like
and you will
fuck, like
question,
fuck this.
why
Like
the hell did
yep.
I? Yep, why did
Why
I
did I
choose this
ever?
course? Why did I ever? So I had that, and I told my dad, I can't. It's too it's too pressure. Like a lot of pressure is put on me.
Yeah.
I want to shift to chemistry. That's what I told him. This is still like connected to like how to choose your life path, in
Yeah.
connection to how to choose your life path. And I think the most important advice that he gave me, I'm not even sure if he remembered saying this to me. He told me, finish what you started. And
Yeah.
when you're finished with your initial task, you can do whatever you want. I will
Yep.
even support you. If you want to study chemistry again, but just finish what you started,
Yeah.
which was a very important lesson, and a lesson that I'm still trying to incorporate.
Yeah. To live up to. So for our listeners,
Yep.
so thank you for making it this far. We're at our last 10-minute mark. Or well,
Yes.
you know more than us if it's actually the last 10 minutes. But
Let's
hopefully
see.
it's the last 10 minutes. So
Yep.
I think honestly that's a great story, Meg. I think the other thing about
It's
it is
funny.
I think you have it a lot better than a lot of people. So this is when we're gonna talk a
No.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we're gonna talk a bit about culture because
yeah.
I think we're in kind of the same spot. Like
Mm-hmm.
we could choose anything, but we made practical decisions, or for you, it's more personal decision for
A
what you chose in
vendetta.
college. A
Personal
vendetta against
vendetta.
mathematics. God. But I honestly do remember like a lot of people like two bad things that or not bad things like maybe negative aspects of society that I remember is that first there is the subclass of people that they're not self-aware enough to know what they want to do, right?
Yes.
And the second is there are people that know what they want to do, but they don't have the resources
True.
to
True. True.
to
True.
pursue that
To
course.
pursue what they
And
want.
and what
Yeah.
I mean is, in the Philippines, like family culture is very strong. Like to the point that
The
if
family
you're if
ties.
you're if you're an uncle of somebody, you would offer like if their parents are having a hard time, you would offer
Mm-hmm.
to pay for them to go to school. Like that's
Yes.
how good familial bonds are in the Philippines. But here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing, because of that, sometimes like these aunties and uncles, they insert what they want the kids to take. Like
Their opinion,
it's a
quote
conditional
unquote.
thing. It's not a support just because I want to support you. It's like, well, you know what? If you decide to be an attorney, I'll support you all the way. If you decide to be a doctor, I'll support you all the way. Because I have this friend, and because you brought up nursing or because you brought up
Mm-hmm.
being a doctor, I remember her because she wanted to be a doctor. She also wanted to be a
Mm-hmm.
doctor. She was planning to take up nursing. But then the person who was putting her through school was her uncle, and her uncle was an
Okay.
engineer. So
Oof.
he's like, I'll pay for your entire college, or even more, I guess. But it needs to be something in engineering, and that's why we met each other
Wow.
in computer engineering. And to be fair to her, she's one of the she's a great computer engineer. But especially in the first few years that we met each other, like you can
She
tell
has
that
high marks.
she has high
Mhm.
marks because like people get high because school is just studying, most of it is just studying.
True.
So
Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
course you study, you get high marks, makes sense. But the first couple of years, you could honestly say, I think even a little bit after, when we're almost graduating, you can tell that she's not into it. Like
She
you can
doesn't.
tell that she's into it like when we were already graduating, because like I think you're also excited about graduating, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Of
and of
course.
course, and towards the end, that's when things also get a bit spicy. They get honestly a bit more interesting,
Spicy.
spicy. But the thing about
Yeah.
it is, especially in the first like 3 years, like you could tell she's not into it at all. Like
Mm.
being here, shit for her. And the funnier thing about it is, like she has the most pleasant demeanor that we like all of my entire batch of friends in computer engineering. She has the best demeanor of
So
all of.
all of your friends have bad demeanor except
No, no,
her?
she just has the. She's
Yeah.
very soft
She's
spoken and she's
pleasant.
very pleasant. And I think
Yeah.
that would honestly reflects a little bit on her wanting to be a nurse,
A
because
doctor, yeah. She would have been
she
a
would
great
have been a
nurse.
great nurse. She would have also been a
Mm.
great doctor. But now she's a great engineer.
It all turned out well. All right. So, for the last stretch of this conversation, let us unpack our own stories, Miko, and let's, if we can travel back in time,
Yeah,
if there are lessons that we can teach our past selves and maybe our audience on how should we have chosen better
yeah,
our life paths, because I was talking to my brother
yeah.
and I was not really to my brother, but when my mom calls me, she puts it on loudspeaker and everyone can hear. So I was like, oh, because my brother's in grade 10, I
Yeah.
think.
So when you
And I was
start choosing your
asking,
specialization, yep.
yeah, so I was asking my mom, oh, my brother's in grade 10. Does did he mention what he wants? And then my mom's like, nah. There's no such conversation yet. And then the conversation went like, my mom's like, oh, I really want maybe like I will let him take this and let him, the usual
Mm,
Asian opinionated
right.
conversation that we were talking about.
Yep.
So I cannot speak to my brother directly about it because I know he will be skirting the issue. So this is
Yeah.
big sister's way to let my big brother know. Yeah, I hijacked the conversation, but if I can impart lessons to people like my little brother who's like trying to make these big decisions while they are 15,
Ah,
what
God.
would you want to tell them? Go, Miko, you first.
Yeah, I think the other, yeah, so for me, I honestly wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is I think I was self aware about my decision. So
Mm-hmm.
I knew what I wanted. And the other thing that was good about it is after I'm a computer engineer, when I was deciding when I was in first year, after I'm a computer engineer, if I still want to pursue botany, I can still do it as a master's, right? So
Yes.
it's not a lost opportunity. But secondly, I also wanted to be in tech. Now, I think the most important thing to do if you have no idea right now is just that you know what you really don't want to do,
Mm.
because that's a
That's
good
a good start.
start. That's a good start.
Mm.
And honestly, sometimes life doesn't lay out the path of us being able to do what we want to do right away.
Yeah, it's not a straight path right away.
Like if you read all of the success stories of anyone, it's not a straight line. Like you want to be a
Mm.
good botanist, you enroll in botany. I'm not sure. It's not as straightforward as people think. So for me, that's honestly it. If you're in a state of mind where you're self-aware or you know what you want to do, or if that's difficult for you right now, as long as you know what you don't want to do and you base your decisions on that, I think you'll be in a good position. The second thing is, and this is the last thing for me, is just that
Mm.
can you envision yourself working in that thing that you're imagining? So like what you mentioned, Meg, if can I imagine myself being a doctor? If the answer is no, then don't enroll.
Yeah.
The same thing is like that. Like that's here's a 5 second digression. I actually wanted to
Go.
pursue civil engineering after my computer engineering degree.
Oh. Yeah,
And
you mentioned that to me. You're
and
about to
I
take a double major.
I was about to take a double major, and you're right, it was at the fourth year. When I got into fourth year, and I was gonna do it. I was gonna do it the fourth year second sem. fifth
Yeah,
year
we talked
first
about
sem
that.
hit.
I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fifth
yeah,
year
yeah,
first
yeah.
sem, and I'm like, I want to die. Like, I'm taking
Yeah.
two classes the whole semester, and I already want to die. I have no idea why. It's the last year. No, 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 no. Fifth year first semester, 5 subjects. Fifth year second semester, 2 subjects.
Two subjects.
I only was taking 2 subjects, and I wanted to die. I go to
Because
school
it's
every,
so hard, right? It's so challenging.
yeah. I well, kinda. Sorry, it was a bit okay for me.
Oh,
But
okay. So what? Why were you stressed then? If it's not that stressful.
no, because I was having difficulty managing myself because I was a leader of 7 organizations at the same time. So
That's why.
I was a full-time student leader, part-time student. But anyway, long story
Yes.
short,
Mm,
sorry for the digression. That's it.
it's
First,
okay.
self-awareness, and second, like just visualization. Not positive or negative. You don't need that right now yet.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just think of yourself? And that's why I didn't pursue civil engineering anymore. This is why the digression is related. I wanted to be a civil engineer, but I was thinking about it, and I was like, I want to be the guy that signs the paper and makes 1 million. But I don't
Okay.
want to be the guy that takes the surveyor out in the hot sun, writes down
Mm,
blueprints for buildings, verifies it,
mm-hmm.
and like being a junior engineer, especially in civil engineering, you're a slave. You're
And you have
honestly,
to start somewhere,
and you
right?
have to start as a junior. And a lot of times, people don't even get a start as a junior engineer. You just get hired as a surveyor. So you're even in a worse spot. You're not even given an engineer in your job title. You're
Yeah.
you're in such a bad spot. And I was envisioning myself. So I was thinking, I want to be the guy that signs off a $1 million paper, like on a blueprint or on a check. But I don't want to be the guy that's standing around in the sun. But
Yeah.
to be an honest to God good civil engineer, you need to have
You
gone
have to
through
go
that,
through it. Hmm.
because
True.
there are no shortcuts, right? There aren't any shortcuts. So, and that's what I was mentioning when I was talking about it earlier. When you have the end goal in mind, but you only want the end goal, and you don't think you can bear with the
The
mix
process.
in between the process,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you should do it, because you're just
Yeah.
in it for the money. So for me, it was just, am I just in it for the money? I think so.
To be honest.
because, because I mean, if you think about it, if you think about any course that way, and civil engineering just makes it easy, because
Mhm.
they're a bit flashy about it. Let's be honest, them and architects, because they're both
Yeah.
stupid. Never mind, no swearing.
My
Like,
sister is an architect.
yeah,
Don't say that.
you're in it for the gram. Because that's the thing. Like you look at the people who are the most successful in the industry, and then
Mhm.
they're signing $2 million peso blueprints, and you want to do that too. But can you survive the 20 years that it takes to get there? So that's really the question. So,
That's actually a good
like,
advice.
to
Yeah.
be fair, 2 million pesos, a 1 million pesos every month or so, it does buy you a lot of comfort. I mean, let's be fair. Money does solve a lot of people's problems, not existential ones, but a lot of comfort problems. But the question is, if you really hate it, do you think you won't kill yourself before you get to 20 years, where
And you
you
might
where
quit.
you might either get stressed out and leave the industry, wasting your course. You might
And your
commit
time.
suicide, because a
Mhm.
lot of people do that, especially like in Japan. But that's a
Mhm.
different cultural story. Or third, maybe you go all the way there. You're one of those really high functioning people. You make your way all the way to the top because you're so competent in your studies, you know how to perform, and you climb all the way up the corporate ladder, only to find that, you know what, you haven't been developing interest because you're focused too much on working. You're looking too forward to the $1 million signature,
Mm.
and you find yourself that, wow, is this what it feels like? Why am I not happy? And
And
that's
you feel
and
empty.
that's
And it's
depressing.
another midlife crisis. It's
And
another
that
crisis.
and that viewers shows us that we were wrong earlier. It wasn't the last 10 minutes. We're already 5 minutes. We're 5 minutes past. But I think the conversation is a bit better here. But anyway,
It's important to talk
so
about these
that's
things.
what I'm thinking about it. Is that
Mm.
honestly, like any successful person is gonna tell you, there is struggle, right? But then, is the struggle worth it? And most of the people will tell you that if it's struggle and it's something that you like doing, it's struggle that feels like it pays off later, and it feels so much better when it does pay off. But
Yes.
then, but then, because life is gonna put you in bad spots. Like I'm unemployed, and if I remain unemployed for like another month, I might consider like my worst case scenario and go to a mainstream call center, a mainstream customer service representative job,
Mm.
right? Because that's how people make money, and life
Yeah.
doesn't always
You have
give
to be
you.
practical.
Yeah, you need to be practical. Life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. It's simple. But then in the in between, what are you doing? So like I'm still doing this, and I hope to God that like you look back to this video, or like you look back to this video years from now, and like I can say like, yeah, I'm a millionaire now, but I'm dirt poor here.
Yes, it's this is an evidence of being
like
your dirt poorness.
I'm so dirt poor, but remember, rich people are only broke. They're never poor.
Okay.
Because you know all that shit. Poor is a mindset. Broke
Yeah.
is just a state of being.
That's why I just said okay.
Yeah, because like I know I'm dirt poor because I don't have any money. I mean, like
Okay.
I have money in the bank, but that's for like medical and stuff. So I don't have any spendable money. I don't order anything online. I don't buy any food. I have no
Mm-hmm.
income. Like I'm as poor as like if I get COVID again, I'm dead.
But Miko, you're lucky because you have we in the Philippines actually is very lucky
Yeah,
because it's our culture to be close to our families, as what you've mentioned
yeah.
before.
That's
So
true.
if ever you're in a bad spot, your family will swoop up and take you back to the nest. Maybe.
Well, yeah, that's true. But of course, let's remember all the people where their family isn't like that. So I know that's a
Hmm.
lot. It's really hard.
That's why I'm always thankful.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
but for
Okay.
those people, short shout out for those people because I know a couple. Like
Mm-hmm.
for those times when like either your family's already gone, because I have a couple of friends whose parents have passed,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe your family's not there for you. Life's also about finding those people who can be that family
Yes.
for you.
Your
So
tribe. Find your
your
tribe.
tribe.
Mm.
So because life's honestly difficult. Like, I
It
didn't.
is. It
Yeah,
is. It
I'm a
is.
bit dramatic right now. Life's honestly difficult, and it doesn't not become difficult. So, but and I can see why so many people are so broken in society when you don't have anyone to lean on, or for example people who stay in abusive relationships because the person they're in a relationship with is the only person that they can lean on, and when
Mm.
that person leaves they don't have a support system anymore, and that's
Mm-hmm.
tragic. And
It is.
life
It is
isn't
kind of
meant to
tragic.
be tragic. Life's meant to be lived. It's not meant to be tragic. So
It is.
I think
Okay.
that's the thing. Yeah. So let's go to you,
Drama
Meg.
aside.
Drama aside.
Okay. I agree with everything you said, and I want to top that up with this thing. This guy called Mark Manson.
Yeah.
Not sure if I butchered his
uh,
name. I
the
subscribed to
author
his
of
news.
Unfuck Yourself.
Yeah,
I think that's
something like
him.
that. I subscribed to his newsletter when he was not that famous before. like the first few, and one of them really struck me. He said like, and I'm sorry for the language, but this is like what he said. When you are choosing a big decision in your life, like a career goal or something like that, this is just on top of what you said earlier. Think of this. It's gonna be shit in the beginning. That's what he said. Because everyone starts at the bottom. But the most important thing that you have to know is which shit are you willing to swallow? Bad graphic, everyone, but a very important. It stuck with me.
Yeah.
It stuck with me because if you are getting into a career, it will be a path. That's why it's called a career path, because you actually have to start traveling the path before you can
Right.
even get
That's a
anywhere.
great visual, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. If you know that it's gonna be shit at the beginning, you will be like what you said, you'll be a slave, you'll be under the sun, you will be the bottom feeder. But
Yeah.
which part of the tank are you willing to pick the shit out of? Which shit are you willing to swallow? That's my number one like opinion about this matter. And I think I've done that when I was younger subconsciously. I looked
Yeah.
at doctors that are not that successful yet in their career, like the bottom feeders, and I saw how hectic their life was, no sleep, blah blah blah, and I said, no, I can't do
Nope.
that. I'm sorry. I'm going to something else. And then on top of that, how will you know which shit are you willing to swallow? So this is my opinion number 2. Know yourself. Because how will you be able to know which shit to swallow if you don't know? And then it begs the question, okay, fine. That everyone's telling me that, like, know yourself, be self-aware. How do you do that? Well, then, there is always this fascination about something when you are young. And I realized this when I was thinking about what I'm going to talk about tonight. And it just hit me yesterday. We have tendencies to be attracted to things.
Yeah.
Like for me, I was really attracted to encyclopedias and science books. I devoured science books and encyclopedias because I like the aha moments. Like when you read something, like, so that's how it works. That's what I gravitated to. Try to look at yourself today and see, like, go back to your childhood. What are the things that you really enjoy? Because I don't know who said this quote, and I don't know if the quote is correct, but this person said that your adulthood is just reliving the things that you fell in love with when you were young. So you're, as an adult, you're trying to go back to those things and you're trying to rediscover them in the lens of an adult life. So if you really don't know what you want, Mika's advice was good. Like, try to know what you don't want.
Yeah.
But if you don't have an idea of what you want, try to look back when you were young. Do you like tinkering with stuff? Do you like to take stuff apart and discover what's in them? Do you like taking care of people? When your dog was sick, did you nurse your dog until it was fully healed or something like that? Or when you were young, would you like to paint and draw and be artistic or read books and everything? Just go back to your passions when you were young. Because when we were young, Nico, I think the prejudice of the world is not still impressed on us.
Yeah.
So we're still free to discover what we want. So
Make it feel
those
like
are the
people are
3
trapped,
things.
Meg.
Yeah, but those 3 things. Know which shit you're willing to swallow and know what you want in the first place. And if you don't know, go back to your passions when you were young. And I know this will be idealistic. For me, personally, it was late when I realized that I don't like chemical engineering job of the day to day.
Yeah.
I'm honestly telling you that. That's why That's why I don't want to work in an industry, because it's repetitive.
Yeah.
And I don't like repetitive stuff. Does that mean that I failed in my choice of chemical engineering? No. I wouldn't change anything because chemical engineering gave me the rigor, this way of thinking that I have, and it changed my perspective of the world. So for those who already picked the second year and third year, oh no, the fourth year students engineering that we have, right? Miko, are you yawning on me? But yeah, we were recording this at, what time is it now? Almost 11
It's
in the
9
evening.
actually.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, it's
For
11 for
those,
you.
yeah, for those people who are in the crisis, the third year, the fourth year, you're almost there. Just push through, finish what you started, and after that, you can do whatever you want. That's what my dad told me. It worked for me. I'm not sure if it will work for you, but I will give you the same advice. And lastly, Miko, for those who already graduated and they regretted their decision,
That's so sad.
I would want to tell you, don't regret it, because your journey in that course is the reason why you are who you are right now. 4 years of your life was spent in there, and these are formative years. So this shaped who you are. Don't regret who you become, because actually it's an achievement if you get a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
You did it. You achieved something.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all.
Yeah. So thank you, Meg. And well, I got to apologize, like both to you, Meg, and to our viewers. I don't think I was uh, my best in this episode, so
No,
I
it's okay.
apologize. I apologize, listeners. But this is,
It's
not
I enjoyed
every
it. Yeah.
not every podcast is the same level. But next podcast, you're gonna listen to a better one next week. So I hope you learned something. But before I
We do
end,
hope you learned something. Mm-hmm.
I do remember something that I mentioned in one of my YouTube videos, and well, I enjoy being a speaker. So there
Yeah.
are times I discover I quote. I think I discover I quote. So there are two right now which I think are very striking, but this is the one that came to mind. Now,
Mm-hmm.
like in relation to the ending of our discussion, like self awareness, deciding on what you want to do. I think the quote is, go with the flow, but manipulate the direction of the water. And what do I mean by that?
Ooh.
I think a lot
Word
of
bender.
people use it in a bad way. Okay, I think go with the flow gets a bad rap. People use it as an
Yeah.
excuse to procrastinate. People use it as an excuse to just not do what they're supposed to be working on. But
Mm-hmm.
but here's the thing: business people, successful business people, do the same thing. So what they mean by go with the flow is you go where the opportunities take you, but it's not an excuse to not
Yeah.
to not be good, to not be productive. And like if I would use that in relation to our listeners, I think the most important thing for you to do right now is like we talk a lot about self-awareness or whatever or all of these other concepts we talked about, but I think that people should just have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple. You just have a plan. What do you want to do? Meg and I, we have a
True.
podcast because we like talking. Like
Yes.
that's why we want to sit here like for hours at a time and talk because talking is enjoyable. Now,
It
for
is.
some of you it's a drawing. For some of you it's bossing other people around. Hopefully not.
Hopefully
for,
not.
for other people it's sitting in front of a screen and playing computer games. Like now isn't the time to be frowned upon for doing anything, honestly.
Yes.
And
Try anything you like.
like truly anything. Like people on Fiverr, you pay people $5 on Fiverr to drink different types of water. Like that's yes, Don't ask.
But don't try
But
that.
yes.
Don't try that. Don't try the illegal
But
stuff too.
it's not
Okay?
illegal. It's
Nothing that will
water.
harm you.
It's water.
No, because we just said try anything. I'm just putting a
You said try
disclaimer.
anything.
I'm just
It
putting
wasn't
a
my fault.
disclaimer, okay? Don't
It was
harm
all Meg's
yourself.
fault. But anyway,
No, that's why. No.
but anyway, the point, guys, is
Do it.
it. I think, and another thing is, life's really simple, but
Mhm.
people complicate things. So I think we have another episode in store, maybe about
Yeah.
meditation, and how like a lot of success principles are related to spirituality in a weird way, but that's
In a
talk
weird way.
different way, different time. But the point about everything is, if you don't have anything right now, just come up with a simple plan. And your plan can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. Like maybe you have a plan for 5 years. I used to make a 10-year plan. Now I just cut it down to 5 years. But if you don't have anything right now, or you're feeling really down and you're just listening to the podcast before you want to sleep, just make a plan for what you want to do tomorrow. And that's a good start.
But maybe make your bed when you wake up. That's a plan.
Yeah.
Just
So
just simple little steps.
yeah, it's really about little steps. So
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone knows what they want.
Deep
If,
inside.
like sometimes you don't verbalize it, or you don't even know how to verbalize it. But I think people know what they want, and people know what they don't want. And I think sometimes, especially because of how we're raised, it's even difficult to admit that.
Because
Like
it's suppressed in some way.
it's suppressed in some way.
Yeah.
I think some people, like, they're an artist trapped inside of a doctor who's been working for 20 years, because they have a generation of doctors, and we can't be a disappointment to the family line. I think there are some people like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not here to critique their career, but we only live one life, and it's difficult if you're not enjoying yourself. Because, some of our listeners believe in God, some of them don't. But all we know is that you have limited time, and life is about making the most out of it. So the question is, how do you make the most out of it? And okay, some people are going to use this as an excuse, like, yeah, I shouldn't do any work at all. No, that's not what we're saying. Life's hard, but we don't need to make it harder than it already is. And that's by procrastinating on all the things that we want. It's by uh, being too afraid of starting things. That's part of being unproductive. And
That's one of my sins right now. Like being too afraid of starting things. See, like
yeah,
even though like we don't want you to think that we are sitting on a high horse just because we're talking about things like this. Like we're flawed individuals too.
yeah. I mean,
But
yeah,
yeah, but Miko, you were right. Just have a plan and do it.
yeah,
Just don't make a plan like me, okay, and not ending up not doing it.
yeah.
Have a
So
plan and do it.
yeah, before we end, I think we're supposed to end like 10 minutes ago. but yeah, that's definitely one of the examples you see right now. Of course, if you see this from the future, again, hello. If you're from the future, probably Meg and I have successful YouTube channels now. But right now, if we're gonna talk about Meg, she's actually been thinking about making her YouTube channel for the past
I
3 months.
I actually filmed the first one.
Nice,
Already.
yes, that's great. Good job.
I sent you the link.
That was the intro.
Yeah. Still, that's
Oh, I thought,
one.
okay, yeah. So good on that. But
Yay.
but for you viewers, if you want to be like a content creator, I think it's very popular right now. And I actually feeling in the next 20 years it's going to decline because it's gonna be oversaturated.
Yeah.
So, but we're still in a golden period, Meg. But what I
the
mean by that
Goldilocks
is,
zone.
if that's something that you want to do, look at Meg. She's been thinking about this for 3 months or more to make one video. And I, on the other hand, just kind of throw videos out in the air. Like,
I
right
think
now,
we mentioned this in the first episode, right? Like
yeah,
you're
we
the
did.
person like, let's do this. I'm like, I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna sit on this egg
So
until it hatched. Yeah.
they're
Different
both they're
personalities.
both the important thing now is that we both got something out of the gate, because
True.
you're not gonna know how to evaluate, you're not gonna know how to improve if there's not something that you already did. So
True.
that's it for now, everyone listening to the Kind Everywhere podcast. I'm gonna take the outro. So we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify. You can send us an email at ask.kepodcast@gmail.com, or you could also leave us uh, an
A
audio
voice
message,
message.
a voice
Mhm.
message on our Anchor. The link is down in the description. So this has been well, honestly, for me, I don't
Very
think
interesting.
I don't think I was at my best in this
It's
episode.
alright.
I'm
It was
definitely gonna be
interesting.
better in the next episode. I never said that it's not interesting.
Okay.
I never said it's
I
not
didn't,
interesting. I just don't feel
but
like I was myself.
I don't I don't want to agree with you. You
Why?
had very good insights. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, also before we
Yeah, go
end,
ahead.
we're stretching this out a little bit. If you want to send us a personal message, again, it can be like anything. Do you want to express something? Do you want to ask us advice or something like that? Anything personal? It can be like non-business related. We are welcoming you to reach out to us, and we promise to reach back to you because we're trying to build like a community where we can support each other, everything like that. We can't do that if you won't reach out first, so don't be shy. That's all.
So thank you, Meg. As a reminder to everyone, life is just a really long, stretched out existential crisis, and doing things that you enjoy just distract you from how bad life really is. And if you do it long enough, you kind of forget that life's really bad. But then if you
Maybe
don't
you see that
feel
it's
how bad,
nice.
yeah, but if you don't feel like life's bad, then surprise, it's not bad. So,
It's just how you think.
like, life's a complicated place to be in. So life's a place, life's an entity. Like, if we can help you out in any way, uh,
Yes. We're
and to
willing
the
to.
to the zero people who are listening to this point, like, thanks for listening, because right now we're talking into the void, especially for the first episode. But I'd like to thank everyone that our first couple of videos, like the first episode has
Yes.
112 views, and that's great. Like,
That's
that is
great.
great.
Like 112 people
Like, that's that's
gave
honestly
gave
good. Yeah.
give their attention to us.
So
Thank you.
thank you guys for listening to that. And
And do the
for the
outro already, Miko.
yeah, for the two people who are here, like, thanks for listening. And this has been the Kinda Everywhere podcast. So
Hmm.
we're not gonna ask you to. So Meg asked you to audio message. I'm not gonna ask you to subscribe. Yeah, just leave us an audio message at Anchor. That's the one
Yes,
thing that we want
please.
to ask you in this episode. But we have another more interesting video or podcast for you in 2 weeks, and the topic is interesting because it's gonna be about interests. Get it?
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Oh God, my brain is fried. Like, my brain's
Alrighty.
fried because of the puns. Like, when I edit this, I'm just gonna cover my own audio with outro music, and it's just gonna slowly
Yeah.
fade the video out. That's what's gonna